I can't believe that we're into the new year, and we had the COVID at the end of the new year. We knew that from the last podcast we talked about with Megan. And believe it or not, that 2021 is now upon us to make resolutions.
I know. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, fellow streakers.
And what is it about? I really hoped that, actually, I knew this a couple of months back, but I had in my head that as soon as 2020 was gone, everything that had been associated with that COVID related would be done. We're like, okay, it's the new year.
It's over. Here we are.
But that's not. And I knew a couple of months ago, I guess, I started thinking, you need to stop thinking that way because it doesn't just go away because it's the 1st of January. You're still going to have.
It should just go away. 2021 is a new year.
New year.
And therefore, we should be doing new things and having new and fun adventures.
So I found an awesome article on why we make and break New Year's resolutions.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm excited. Is that what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today.
Before we get into that, can I make one announcement?
Yeah.
Okay, so the app, new version 2.0 is coming out it'll be the third week in January is when we'll release it. And it is really cool. All kinds of fun stuff in there that I think
do they get
everyone's
the animations now?
They get the animations, they get the stacks, they get if the paywall moves, so everyone joins the community. If you want a friend, Jamie and I will share with you a couple of streaks right out of the chute, and you're certainly welcome to share your streaks with us. It is the only app on the face of the planet that I know of that actually allows you to share a laughably simple streak with someone.
Yes.
That says, I want to share this with you. And the reason why is not because I want to be more accountable. That is not the reason why we share the streaks. The reason why you share the streak is, yes, it can help with accountability, but it's for celebration.
It really is.
Don't you think?
Yeah, because, and I mean, accountability is a little bit of an inherent thing in it, but it's not accountable did you do your streaks?
Right.
It's
and in fact, we haven't set it up that way at all.
No, it's more just this opportunity to congratulate people when they are doing them and to high five and good job and
Right, exactly.
Way to keep going, keeping up the consistency of the laughably simple.
I'm going to adjust my chair. I'm looking at Jamie through the microphone. It's like this really weird split of your face. And so
do I have a thing sticking out my nose because of the microphone?
There we go. All right, that's a little bit better. So anyway, I'm very excited about the 2.0 of the streaking app. We've got a lot of people that are using it now. A lot of people have asked for some of these upgrades and things that are happening. The movement of streaking is starting to take off. We had really some fun podcasts at the end of 2020, and that's now moving forward into 2021. If you haven't listened to Jim Hewling's podcast, Find Your Fire, we did one with him, and I'll tell you, Jim is amazing, and he released that on December 14th, so it was just before the new year started, which means probably a lot of people may have been heading into their Christmas vacation,
right,
and therefore didn't see it, or hear it. I think he did record it too. I think it's on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one. Megan Sumrell and her group, they are all streakers and doing some fun streaking stuff. And we've got several others, groups that it's spreading like wildfire. It's fun to get texts from people that say, just unrelated, said, hey, we got your book.
I know.
And I had no idea how they got our text number. I guess, I don't know.
I don't know either, but they're excited to have the book. It's been fun. We've had a lot of fun.
So one of the things, to your article of what you've got going on here, because I love where you're going to go with this. When we look at New Year's resolutions, now New Year's resolutions have served people well. I mean, they've served me well. Mm-hmm. Just because I think sometimes we bag on things just because they don't work perfectly.
Yeah, I agree.
However, it is an opportunity for us to reset on some things. The question is how do you make them even more successful? Isn't that kind of where we're at?
Yeah, and just thinking that, I think it's just human nature to want to kind of set goals to improve. And when you've got this new year, this new slate, it's like a new piece of paper kind of thing. It's exciting, and you want to look at it and think, okay, I'm going to start right here, right now, and I'm going to change. So I love that feeling of New Year's resolutions. I love the feeling that this is new, that I can look back to what I've done, but I can also and want to look forward at how I'm going to improve, how I'm going to be better, what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I think the downfall comes in, and this is something that I've loved about streaking, is that a New Year's resolution, this feeling of being new and starting fresh with a new year,
Right.
only happens once every 365 days. And as soon as you miss something or aren't living up to the resolution that you set, then you feel like, well, that's it.
That's it. I may as well throw in the
Just
towel.
throw in the towel.
It's all over.
So that's one of the things that I've really grown to appreciate about streaking is that it's able to capitalize on that feeling of doing something new and starting something without having to have it be in conjunction with a certain time.
Right.
Like I can feel like, you know what? I can start that right now.
Yeah.
I don't have to wait until the new year or the new month or even the beginning of the week, or because I'm not necessarily keeping track of it in a calendar kind of way.
Right.
I'm more keeping track of it in how long can I keep this alive? So it doesn't matter when I start. I can just start right now.
Yeah, no kidding. I look at it as well in the regards to you can start a streak at any point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it probably makes sense to maybe start a couple of streaks at the beginning of the new year.
Totally, because you're thinking about it. You don't
Right.
have to. And that's what I guess I was saying is that I want to capitalize on that feeling of being like, it's new and I want to, it's great to have that feeling where you're like, I want to do better.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay, so
Capitalize
I'm
on that.
dying to know, what does this article say?
Well, so first of all, the research says that 50% of adults in the United
and
States.
who's this by?
This is by Charles Herrick, Chair of Psychiatry for Nuvance Health.
Okay.
I think this is westernconnecticuthealthnetwork.org.
Okay.
That's where I found this article.
Great.
So in this article, he says, research shows that as many as 50% of adults in the United States make New Year's resolutions. So
over half the people make a New Year's resolution.
Make a New Year's resolution. But fewer than 10% keep them for more than a few months. So we start, half of us start, but a lot of it drops off within the first couple months.
Right.
And then this is the part that I wanted to talk about because I felt like when I read this, I was like, these are all the things that we've talked about with streaking. So it says, giving up on New Year's resolutions is often related to 3 issues. Difficulty breaking old habits, which was fascinating to read this article because, again, it ran into that same challenge that we've been talking about so often of how do you actually define what a habit is. And again, using those two definitions interchangeably, the one being something that you do automatically without thinking, and it talks about this in this article that they consider a habit something that's in the unconscious mind. But then also this idea that a habit is something that you do repeatedly. And what
that
happens,
one will merge into the other.
That they use those definitions interchangeably, and it creates this dissonance and frustration.
Do you think they use it interchangeably? Or I tend to think that whenever I talk to anyone about habit, the immediate thought is, I'm going to do it repetitively so it will become automatic. It's always a progression from one to the other. I don't think they use it interchangeably. I always think it's like the definition is something you repeat until it becomes automatic.
Right,
That's like
idea.
the whole definition, which is very frustrating because
very, very few things actually function that way.
Yeah.
And become what we would consider a habit. And it seems to be a lot of times that when we talk about habits, it seems like that does happen with bad habits. A lot of the things that we don't want to be a part of our life become unconscious and we do them repeatedly until they become unconscious. And so that was part of. So anyway, giving up on New Year's resolutions.
What are some of those bad habits that you want to break, hon? What do you got going on?
Biting my fingernails.
Do you really bite? You don't bite your fingernails, do you?
I do.
Oh,
I do.
wow.
That's why
I didn't notice.
Not all the time, but when I have
every
them.
once in a while. But it's something that is, but it's triggered automatically. It's something that triggers that.
It's something that I'm doing, and then I'm like, dang it, when did I start biting my fingernails again?
Exactly. So habits, and I think that definition of terms is so significant, and that's what this is pointing out as well, is that resolutions set against a habitual nature, in other words, an automatic nature, are going to be more difficult to keep than something that's not. Something that's in line with your habitual nature or with the thing that you do automatically is probably going to be a little bit easier to keep.
Right.
Okay, keep going.
So that was the first of the 3 issues of why we break New Year's resolutions. 1, it's difficult to break old habits. 2, focusing on specific outcomes. So rather than focusing on the inputs, this is what we've talked about, you get focused on the output. So that was another reason that we break the resolutions. And then the third one was problems with the purpose. So in other words, we've set a resolution, but we don't actually take the time maybe to think that how that resolution fits into who we want to be. What's the purpose of it? We just set it, and we don't actually have enough desire or purpose around it to keep the resolution going.
In other words, my B statement.
Yes. So that's what I loved about
who
it.
Who do I want to be?
Is that as I read through this article, it was like difficulty breaking old habits. I was like, well, by defining it right away and recognizing what a habit is and what a habit is not helps me to understand.
And I think something that you said as well in regard to habit and the other things is he talks about
Charles Herrick.
Dr. Herrick talks about streaking, but he talks all around it because I don't think that there has been a word out there to define what it is we need to do. And that's why this is such a huge new movement that's going on is because streaking now is the way to define what I do repetitively, consciously. I do it laughably simply, and I create a record around it and create a community around it, or keep a record and create a community. And all of a sudden, it's like everything unlocks, and the chakras unlock. Chakra number 7.
Chakras. We're unlocking the chakras.
I mean, if you've ever seen Avatar with your kids, all right, Nickelodeon's Avatar. I mean, you got to unlock your chakras.
I got to unlock your chakras.
It's chakras? Was I saying chakras? Chakras.
I don't know if it's anyway.
I love it when I get her off. She's like, "Could we please return to the article?"
Unlocking our chakras.
Yes, we are. Which honestly, I know that we make a little bit, but it is so significant because once I understood that there are things that habits are habits, they're unconscious things, and that streaks are something I do consciously, all of a sudden I unlocked a whole nother realm of my life that I could start to improve on and resolve to do differently.
So that's what I loved, is that as I was looking at this and thinking, I do love this time of year and this idea of setting New Year's resolutions. And he gave 4 things that you can do to help improve. And as I read them, I'm like, these are the things that we've talked about with streaking. So if, like you had said, if there was an understanding of what a streak was, would it be able to help with these things?
I think that's what he would use. He would say, so you set a streak. And so the streak is, so go ahead. Yeah.
So the very first thing, here are a few tips that may help you keep your resolutions. This is what he said. Find your purpose. And I thought, that's exactly what we've talked about with your B statement. Take time to think about who you want to be as you're thinking about New Year's resolutions. Take the time to think about where you are and where you want to be.
Who you want to resolve
to be. So that you can. So my favorite story about this is a situation, and I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast or not, but we were talking to a group with Megan Sumerell. We did a workshop with her group, and she gave what was such a great example to me. So she talked about how she has an 11-year-old daughter. And she goes, I am like a go-getter in the morning. Megan, the mom. She's like, I like getting things done. I like moving on. Let's get going. Let's get out the door. And she said, my 11-year-old daughter is a sloth. She's like, I can't get her to go more than one pace. And so she had said, she goes, we would butt heads a lot. And I had been thinking, I really want to be more patient. And so she said, I said a couple things where I was like, well, I'm going to stop saying hurry up. And I'm going to count to 10 before I expect her to do things. Just these different things that she was setting for herself to try and improve this morning routine and so that they weren't butting heads. And then she said, the other night I finished reading the book and I was thinking about this. I want to be more patient. And I read about the B statements and I asked myself the question, why do I want to be more patient? And what she came to when she took some time to think about it is what she really wanted was her daughter to leave every day knowing that her mom loved her. That's what she came up with when she sat down and thought, what am I really saying when I say I want to be more patient? What I'm really saying is that I want my daughter to know every single day that I love her. And so she goes, so instead, I set a streak to either say or text, I love you to my daughter every day. And I thought that was such a cool experience of getting to a different place when she took the time to sit and think, okay, why do I want to be patient?
Right.
Who do I want to be? What am I trying to accomplish here? Well, I want to be a mom whose daughter knows that I love her.
Wasn't that what happened to us when we started to look at and ask the question why we are doing some of the streaks that we did?
Yes.
Because I loved when you said we were not striving to become professional marathoners.
Exactly.
We wanted to be healthy. We wanted to be fit in order to keep up with that 9-year-old that's running around right now. That's our 7th child.
Exactly.
We wanted to be those things, or we wanted to be healthy and fit so that we could keep up with him.
Right. And so what do we need to do to be that? And so that's what this is. The first thing to keeping your New Year's resolutions is find your purpose. In other words, take time to figure out who you want to be.
Yeah. I think there are times where I will start a streak without exactly knowing who I want to be, but I know it's something that I want to do because of who I'm becoming. So, for example, in work, I knew that I needed to respond more quickly to email. And I know we've talked about this, and this one's written in the book as well. I didn't figure out for a long time what it was, who I wanted to be for that particular streak. I just started doing it. And then once I started doing it, which the streak is to have less than 10 emails in my inbox at the end of every day, every work day. Once I did that for, I don't know, it's probably 200, maybe 300 days. What I recognized is that who I wanted to be personally was a more responsive person. Because I wanted to show respect to people. I wanted to show that they took the time to contact me or to have some type of communication with me, and therefore I want to respond to them. I want to share with them that I care about what it is that they're communicating. Now, sometimes, of course, it's a quick email and it's not something that's in depth. However,
even in that, though, there's a response. You've still acknowledged that they've sent something out and responded back to it, even if that response is, I'll get back to you.
Right. And I use this example after you've used the most powerful example of Megan with her daughter saying, I love you, and I want to be a person who communicates, a caring mother, basically, and therefore communicates with her daughter every single day, I love you, in either a text or actually speaking to her. Breaking it down to that simple resolution, who do I want to be? This is my purpose, then allows you to look at it and say, this is what I'm going to do to accomplish that purpose. However, as we just stated, you can start with what I'm going to do, and you may not know the why. However, I believe, to your point, it's important to get to the why.
Right. Because once you get to the why is what propels you. It's what keeps you going. And that's one of the things that in this article it talks about, that we break these resolutions because it's not really connected to a deep purpose. We don't really have a why. And so having the why is helpful. The next part of it is find your purpose, but avoid focusing on specific outcomes, which, again, we talked about with goal setting, that to be careful to focus on your output. I
loved what Craig said.
And if you get focused on your output, you're missing the input.
Goals are for losers. He was quoting Dilbert on that one. And the reason why the logic behind it was, until I accomplish the goal, I'm always losing. And the goal points you always to that outcome. Right.
Instead of the input that needs to go into.
Right. And to your point, as far as looking at the inputs, so much more significant to my life are the inputs than are the outputs. I'm not looking at the accomplishment. I'm looking at what's going in for that accomplishment.
But I've thought a lot about it. I mean, I don't think we ignore the output. But what happens is we become so focused on only the output that it becomes a distraction. Either we're losing, or we're not willing to recognize the amount of effort that needs to go into it, or psychologically we start to get, and that's one of the things that this article said, is that you start to psychologically get down on yourself because you're not getting there fast enough, or you get impatient.
Have you found that since you started streaking that you psychologically get down on yourself as much?
Not near as much, no. Not near as much at all. Yeah. It's one of my favorite things about streaking, to be honest, is that there's so many times I'm winning, and then I'm like, okay, I can do that. And then again, always amazed at how willing I am to go farther.
Yeah. What are the other two things he says? I'm watching the clock here. We've got a couple more minutes and we're done.
He says, break your goal into components, set realistic and achievable process goals. So again, this idea of starting something with a laughably simple. That
See, and
little
I think
tweak.
also too to switch to take goals. He's
talking
doesn't
about
have,
goals.
he's-
He doesn't have streaking
He
terminology.
doesn't have streaking terminology. And that's the thing about it is if you just take and put goals in its proper framework,
Mm-hmm.
which is it's something you attain, a goal says output.
Yes.
Whereas a streak is input.
Input.
And that's, I believe, what he's saying there is focus on the streak.
Yep.
Put the streak in play. And what's the
And
fourth one?
focus on that one. The third one.
Oh, is
this
that the third one? I thought that was the fourth one.
Oh, you're right. There is.
Okay.
3 was make a public commitment, and
Oh.
4 was engage with
that.
like-minded people. So to me, that talked about the
Wait a
community.
second. Engage with like-minded people. In other words,
Create a community.
create a community.
Yes. And I think this make a public commitment, in my mind, part of for us, what I feel like that commitment is the logic here was when you tell people you're more likely to do something.
Uh-huh.
I feel like what streaking has done that I see in that is that when you're keeping a record, like when you are keeping a record of what you're doing, that is keeping that commitment to yourself and to the people in your community. You are saying, I'm committed to doing this. And I can keep it because I've made it something laughably simple that I can achieve.
So I would say what we're looking at is streaking the new year.
Streak the new year.
Streak the new year. Because that's what
New Year's streaks.
Yeah, New Year's streaks.
Resolve to have New Year's streaks.
And I think that's really what we need to look at is looking at the New Year's streaks and saying, what are the 1 or 2 that I want to start? Download the streaking app, start keeping track of them, create a community around them, have your friends sign up, and with them, start a like-minded streak. I mean, you and I, we have our streaks, but there's others that are out there that have a like-minded streak in the being fit arena.
Yep. Health and wellness.
Health and wellness.
Education, being a better parent. There's a lot of different communities out there.
So this brings me to a point, and we're going to talk about it on our next podcast because I've been promising. You remember, this is a couple of podcasts ago, and if anyone was paying attention a couple of podcasts ago, they knew that I had said I was going to share 3 stories, and the third story was all about something that would shake up the medical community. Do you remember this?
Yes, I do.
All right, we're going to talk about it on the next podcast. Now, I know that I've been promising that we've been talking about it. However, we've done enough of the preliminary, I wouldn't call it research, but preliminary investigation to really start to talk about this because it's significant to health and wellness. And it is a problem that exists in medicine that has a behavioral component.
Yeah.
So
This will be fun to talk about.
Yeah, that was really great. Thanks, Jamie.
You're welcome. So set your New Year's streaks.
New Year's streaks coming up. Hey, if you want to share with us your New Year's streaks, create a community, you can email me, Jeffrey, Jeffrey, at streakingmastery.com or
Jamie, Jami, at streakingmastery.com.
until we talk again, keep streaking.
Streaks.
It's the small and simple things that make the life we live worth living. Among the rush, do one push up, become a better you. It's the small and simple things that make you grow into what you're hoping.